At 0208 hours, a United States Navy guided missile destroyer was running 12 miles ahead of a convoy of 3 merchant tankers, moving north through the narrowest stretch of the Red Sea. 6 hours earlier, Iran-backed militia forces had declared the entire western approach a blockade zone, warning every vessel flying certain flags to turn back or accept the consequences. The convoy had not turned back. That decision now belonged to the ship in front of it. The sea was black and empty on radar, the kind of empty that put experienced watchstanders on edge rather than at ease. A blockade declared out loud, on open radio, meant someone wanted ships to hear it and keep coming anyway. It was a trap dressed up as a warning. At 0211, the destroyer's air search radar picked up 2 faint returns, lifting off the coastline, low and slow, consistent with small propeller-driven aircraft rather than anything ballistic. The tactical action officer didn't wait for a second sweep to confirm what the profile already suggested. One-way attack drones bearing 095 range 41 miles inbound. 41 miles sounds like distance. At the speed these things flew, it was 11 minutes. The captain arrived on the bridge before the second alarm finished its cycle. General Quarters, set air defense condition 1. Get the convoy turning away from the threat bearing now. Radio traffic to the tankers went out in code groups that took seconds to transmit and minutes for a fully loaded oil tanker to obey. Deep draft ships do not turn like warships. They lean into a new heading slowly, reluctantly, as if arguing with the order the whole way through. By 0214, the picture had grown from 2 contacts to 5. Slow, low, spread across a 10-mile front, each one individually small enough that a single miss on radar could have let one through unnoticed. The destroyer's combat system held all 5 without difficulty, assigning track numbers, closing speeds, and impact projections that updated with every sweep. Sea Sparrow crew, stand by. Guns crew, stand by. CIWS to automatic. Down in the engineering spaces, nobody needed to be told what was happening above them. The ship's sudden turn and the change in vibration through the hull told its own story. Damage control teams staged extra hose lines near the ship's most vulnerable compartments without being ordered to. They had done this before in different waters against different names for the same weapon. At 0217, a 6th contact appeared, this one faster, lower, and behaving differently than the drones, a sea-skimming profile consistent with an anti-ship cruise missile likely launched from a mobile coastal battery hidden somewhere along the militia-held shoreline. It closed the range far quicker than the drones ahead of it, cutting straight through their formation as if using the slower contacts as a screen. New track. Designate hostile track 6. High-speed sea skimmer. Request weapons release on all inbound contacts. Weapons free came back in under 15 seconds. There was no ambiguity left to resolve. A militia force had announced a blockade, then launched a coordinated strike of slow drones and a fast missile at ships that had done nothing but sail past a line drawn on water. The doctrine for that shape of attack had been written and drilled for exactly this moment. At 0219 in 6 seconds, the destroyer's missile system engaged the fastest inbound contact first. The sea-skimming missile disappeared from the display in a burst of expanding debris 11 miles out, low enough over the water that the flash barely cleared the horizon from the bridge. 1 down, 5 drones still inbound. The ship's 5-inch gun mount opened up next, walking rounds through the sky at the lead drone. It took 2 bursts before the first kill, the drone tumbling into the sea in a shallow arc of burning fuel. A second drone corrected around the debris field and kept coming. Contact 4 still inbound, Contact 5 diverging toward the convoy. That was the moment the tactical picture split into 2 problems instead of 1. 2 drones were still driving on the destroyer directly. A third had broken off toward the tankers themselves, either because its guidance had locked onto the largest radar return in the area or because it had been aimed there from the start. The destroyer's close-in defense system, built for exactly this kind of small, fast, low-altitude threat, engaged the 2 remaining drones targeting the ship on automatic track. Both came apart within 4 seconds of each other, close enough that the concussion rattled loose gear across the deck and set off a fire alarm 2 compartments aft that damage control silenced within seconds. There was no actual fire, only shock. That left 1 drone alone running flat and low toward the trailing tanker. The destroyer had no clean shot of its own at that range and geometry without risking rounds passing near the merchant ship itself. The tactical action officer made the call that training exists for. "Helo up now. Take that contact before it reaches the convoy." The ship's embarked MH-60R had already spun its rotors during the initial alarm, sitting fueled and armed on deck as a standing precaution once the blockade declaration came over the net 6 hours earlier. It lifted at Darrow 221, climbing hard, banking toward the last drone's track before its own radar could even complete a full sweep of the area. The aircrew acquired the target visually at just over a mile, a small fixed-wing shape skimming barely above the wave tops, trailing a thin engine exhaust visible even at night through the sensor turret. The helicopter's door gunner opened fire as the aircraft closed the angle, tracer rounds arcing down toward the drone's flight path. The first burst missed low. The second caught the wing root. The drone snapped into an uncontrolled roll and struck the water in a small flat explosion less than 800 yards from the tanker's stern. Close enough that the ship's crew on the weather deck felt the concussion through the hull plating, but far enough that no fragment reached the vessel itself. 6 for 6. 0 hits on any American or merchant ship. The destroyer held its position ahead of the convoy for another 40 minutes, radar scanning continuously for a second wave that never came. Along the coastline, the militia's radio channels went quiet, the earlier blockade announcement replaced by silence that told its own story better than any statement could have. By Euro 300, the convoy resumed its original track, still under escort, the tanker's engines pushing them steadily north through water that had, for one stretch of one night, tried very hard to close in around them. The destroyer's after-action report filed before dawn listed 1 anti-ship cruise missile and 5 one-way attack drones engaged and destroyed, 0 friendly casualties, 0 damage to escorted vessels. In the wardroom afterward, no one called it a victory. They called it what every watch in those waters had started to mean since the blockade declarations began. One more night the convoy made it through, and nothing more.